This is what Astrocade gave me after a single wish for a top-down survival shooter. It's fine, I guess, but this is what I turned it into by fixing just a few of the most common mistakes I see creators make every day. Here's how, step by step. Alright, now the first and most obvious sign of jank, and I see this way too often, people, is this strange player movement in top-down games. What is this? I don't want my Space Marine to breakdance, or whatever Homer's doing. So this weird rotation thing is where we start. The problem is that the player is rotating in a way that breaks the illusion of a top-down game. The solution is simple. Just stand up straight, regardless of movement direction. The characters should flip left and right depending on the direction they're facing, though. Fortunately, we can fix all of this in a single, easy wish. The player should not rotate when they move. Also, all characters should flip when they change direction horizontally. Much better. This alone makes a huge difference. Now, with this out of the way, I'm noticing something else. Everything is way too small. See, Astrocade tends to err on the tiny side when setting up characters and objects, which just makes everything look cheap to me. That's why I almost always bump things up a little. Make the player and enemies 2x bigger. So easy, but such a difference. Notice that there's less empty space, and how it makes the whole game just hit harder at first glance. And let's be clear, if you're making games on Astrocade, you're in the first glance business. Unfortunately, by making everything bigger, we've also made it easier to notice our characters' bland, rigid movement. Ugh. Here's what I mean. Game developers put a lot of thought into how their characters move. They bounce with each step as they walk. They hover up and down as they float. They even breathe in and out while standing still. Meanwhile, our characters are just gliding around like cats riding Roombas. It's so linear, it just feels unnatural. This is a classic rookie move, and I won't stand for it! Now, generating real animation for stuff like walking is currently a limited access beta feature, but we can still improve things with a little creativity. For instance, our player character can approximate a walk by bobbing up and down quickly whenever he's moving, while our alien monsters can hover with a slow, creepy motion, and maybe even pulsate at the same time. These kinds of effects can be powerful, and they're pretty easy to wish for, too. The enemies should hover smoothly at all times, and their scales should pulsate. The player should jitter up and down quickly while moving. See how much of a difference this makes? I'm seeing characters in a physical space now. By the way, Astrocade probably won't get the rhythm or the scale of these effects exactly right on a first try, so be prepared to make some follow-up wishes to dial in the details exactly as you're imagining them. You can check out the little adjustment wishes I made in the game's wish history. There's a link in the description, but they're pretty simple. Just basic guesstimation and trial and error. Ugh, this is so much better than the cat on a Roomba look. But it also leads us right to the next source of jank. No shadows. Shadows are such a fundamental part of how we see the world that we tend to take them for granted. But something definitely looks wrong when they're missing. Notice that the ball on the left is clearly hovering over a surface, but the lack of a shadow on the right makes the whole scene harder to understand. That's why designers incorporate shadows into just about every kind of game, from retro pixel art to modern 3D. They just tie everything together. Here's an example of how. We've got the player moving back and forth, a cube, I guess, whatever, and an enemy hovering up and down. You might notice that everything looks sorta detached, but check out how quickly we can fix that by just placing a cartoony, oval-shaped shadow below everything. Put one below the player, and it becomes clear he's walking on the ground. Notice how the shadow follows him left and right. Put another one below the cube, but much further down, and it looks like it's floating. Without a shadow, this would be almost impossible to convey. And when we put one below the enemy, we complete the hover effect. Of course, shadows have to stay planted. It'd make no sense if the shadow moved up and down, too. But it does grow and shrink in time with the hovering, which suggests a changing distance from the ground. I use some variation of these techniques in just about every single game I make. Here's how to wish for it. Add soft drop shadows below both the player and the enemies. Remember that the shadows don't move vertically, bobbing or hovering. The player shadow should appear at their feet, while the enemy shadow appears further below them. Look at that! It's like it's subtle, but totally necessary at the same time. Even basic shadows like these feel like the missing piece of the puzzle for our game's look and feel. And once again, you can see that it took a few more adjustment wishes until everything was perfect. Move the shadows a bit lower, make them a bit darker, keep them level while the enemy hovers, that sort of thing. We've come a long way in only a few steps. By fixing some common issues and learning some classic game polish techniques, de-jankifying, you might say, but probably won't, we've seen that even a one-wish shooter can be leveled way up. Feeling inspired? Head to astrocade.com to start creating your own games now.